All right, it's Wednesday night. It's not a holiday, so you know what that means. We're back on the Coulrophobics Anonymous podcast. Week 12, well, week 11 and week 12 in the books, looking towards week 13. We're gonna ditch the traditional format this week. You know, we're getting into crunch time here. There's only 2 weeks left, so in lieu of doing our traditional power rankings, I'm just gonna kind of touch on the state of the playoff race. But we will start with the waivers and trades. I got Johnny Knox for $5 as the competitive portion of my fantasy season is now basically over. Basically, trying anything I can to set the weekly high points, get some return on my investment. Got it a couple weeks ago, which was nice. I'd like to do that again. So picked up Knox. I'm starting Caleb Haney. If Haney and Knox can hook up the way they had last week, might have a chance of bringing home $50 and feeling a little bit better about myself. Ben picks up TJ Yates, who might be the worst quarterback to play in the NFL since Todd Collins. And Ted finally cut bait on Javid Best. He finally dropped him, hopefully not onto his head, as that will murder him, according to his doctors. Now, I just mentioned it. We're not really going to do power rankings anymore. Obviously, Ariel and Deutsch are at the bottom. Plotzker, Ted, Oaks are at the top. Denenberg, Justin, Billy, are sort of right behind them. And then Bootsy, myself, Ben, Kraus, we're kind of mired in the middle. That's sort of the way it's been the last couple of weeks, and that's obviously how it will be the last, as we head into the playoffs here. So instead of doing power rankings like I mentioned, we're just going to look at the playoff situation. Going by divisions, the shame of Sherwood has been clinched. Ted Rifkin, congratulations on winning your division there. Obviously got off to a hot start, struggled a little bit, but then the last couple weeks has been on fire. So that was not really a big surprise to anyone. Ted can clinch the top seed this weekend if he goes 2-0, but only if Plotzer goes 0-2. All right, as far as the Schindler Division is concerned, this one actually is becoming a hell of a race. Denenberg, due to some injuries, due to Vic going down, due to, whatever the excuse might be, has really struggled the last 2 weeks. It's been pretty pathetic. And Justin, on the other hand, much to all of our surprise, has come roaring back. So as we stand, Denenberg is 14-10 with just under 2450 total points. Justin is 13-11, so only one game behind with just over 2250. So he's down by about 200 total points. So obviously, this is going to be beyond total points. Justin's going to have to pass him up in the win column. Looking at remaining schedules, these two actually play each other this week. Also, Denenberg plays Ted as well as Justin, which is a harder matchup. Justin just plays Denenberg and Ben. And then in week 14, they both get Denenberg plays Ariel and Justin plays Deutsch, so they get some bottom feeders there. Denenberg also plays myself and Justin plays Bootsy, so kind of some middle teams. Pretty even schedule as far as comparing the two are concerned. For Denenberg, the Steelers, Big Ben and Wallace are two of his big contributors. They get Cincinnati and Cleveland at home in Heinz Field, so things could be pretty good there. Frank Gore has the Rams and the Cardinals, which obviously is very nice for Denenberg. Should expect some big points. And also Rob Gronkowski plays the Colts this week, so I'd imagine he's going to rip them up. And then he plays the Redskins in week 14. So things look good from Denenberg schedule-wise. As far as Justin's concerned, Beanie Wells plays against San Francisco, which could be a serious problem. San Francisco hasn't given up a rushing touchdown all year, and they're sick against the run. So, that could be an issue. Beanie Wells had a big week last week for Justin. So, as well as, as far as running backs are concerned, Darren McFadden might be coming back. And so one of Justin's big backs, Michael Bush, the last couple of weeks, he's going to have his role sort of reduced. That might be an issue as well. And then also, Justin's big duo has been Joe Flacco and Anquan Bolden and the Ravens. They play Cleveland, and Cleveland actually, surprisingly, I was very shocked by this when I looked it up, has the number one pass defense in the NFL. So, it could be an issue there. Flacco obviously is not the world's greatest quarterback. I don't know. As far as calling this one down the stretch, I'm shocked that Denenberg hasn't clinched yet, so who knows what's going to happen. Looks like Vic is already ruled out for tomorrow night, so Denenberg is definitely in some quarterback problems. But I don't think he's going to clinch this week. I think that Justin is actually going to beat Denenberg this week, but that Justin's going to trip up when he faces his brother in week 14. I think Denenberg will win the division based on a point tiebreaker. I think they'll finish with equal records, and Denenberg will have the edge. All right, as far as the Lane Bryant division is concerned, this one, believe it or not, is not wrapped up yet. And if you ask, Oaks is far from over, but Plotsker does have a 3-game lead. Plotsker is 18-6 with over 2,700 total points. Oaks is 15-9 with over 2,600, so he's about 100 points behind him. Plotsker plays myself and Deutsch this weekend, while Oaks plays Bootsy and Kraus. And then in Week 14, Plotsker plays Billy and Oaks, so they do have a head-to-head matchup. And then Week 14, Oaks gets Tad and Plotsker. So, Plotsker can clinch the division by going 2-0, or he can go 1-1 if Oaks fails to win out this weekend. Oaks needs to go 2-0. Otherwise, Plotsker clinches with a win. It's definitely a long shot for Oaks, especially when you look at some of the schedules for some of their players. Plotsker, obviously, Aaron Rodgers is how he butters his bread, and Rodgers gets the Giants this week. The Giants secondary looked absolutely terrible against the Saints. Maybe they won't get shredded that much, but Rodgers is about as consistent as it gets. They also played the Raiders, who Caleb Haney had a little bit of luck passing against. He threw some picks, but the Raiders secondary is nothing great. Also, Plotsker's other quarterback, Eli Manning, who has been a real nice fantasy player despite the fact that he looks like a doofus and he sucks, has been solid from a fantasy standpoint, and he plays Green Bay. That should be a big game for Plotsker. Green Bay's secondary has not been too fantastic, but he does play at Dallas. That promises to be sort of a hard-hitting game, so we'll see about that. As far as Oaks' team is concerned, Chris Johnson, who sort of busted out last weekend, gets to play Buffalo and New Orleans. Tony Romo and Jason Witten get Arizona and the Giants, and then Arian Foster plays against Atlanta and Cincinnati. But with TJ Yates in at quarterback, Foster's going to have a seriously boosted workload. So I would say, Oaks is going to put up a fight, but Plotsker should be able to clinch the division. If not this weekend, then definitely next weekend. And finally, the wild card. I'm going to look at the wild card as it stands right now. Obviously, the loser of the Denenberg and Justin, division race is going to factor in heavily. But as it stands right now, Billy really is the main, non-division wild card competitor. Oaks, I touched on, is 15-9. He's got over 2,600 total points. Billy is 12-12, so he's way back, but still alive, still has a heartbeat. He has just over 2,500 total points. Billy plays Kraus and Ted this weekend, and then plays Ben and Plotsker next weekend. So a pretty tough schedule. He plays Ted and Plotsker down the stretch. I would imagine that Billy will be able to take care of business against Kraus and his brother, but will probably lose to at least one of, if not both, Ted and Plotsker. And Billy kind of needs to win out to really threaten in the wild card race. So I would sort of discount him. Where things might get tricky is if, as I mentioned, Justin is able to win a couple but sort of falls and ends up with something like 15 or 16 wins, and Oaks, trips up a little bit and goes 1-3 down the stretch. Obviously the tiebreaker is going to go Oaks' way, but there's still some things left to be decided when it comes to the Schindler Division and the wild card. All right, and now our favorite race, the most important one, Ariel. His clown tragic number is 1. He needs to go 4-0 and have Deutsch go 0-4 and make up 198.9 point margin. So as I touched on in the email I sent out earlier in this week, it's really just a matter of time. Ariel will be our clown. All right, time to open up the old mailbag. Only one question this week. We have an interview with one of our league leaders, Jason Plotsker, coming up after the mailbag. So he refrained from sending me one of his patented mailbag questions, as I know he would be able to discuss his team on the phone. So the only mailbag question we have this week is from Denenberg. He says, "Dear Mr. Bauer, how many similarities must there be before Justin finally changes his name to Kevin McAllister? He's from the Chicago suburbs. He's got older siblings who tease him and a family that leaves him behind when it does fun things like go to the boats. He's also a precocious young boy who's about to defy long odds and take down the wet bandits. And to top it all off, he's a possible rape victim. And we all remember those sleepovers Macaulay Culkin had at the Neverland Ranch. They also peaked at roughly the same age," referring to Kevin McAllister and Justin. "Justy's coolness will never surpass the time he played high-stakes poker with us when he was 8 years old. Home Alone 3 never happened. Denenberg." Well, Denenberg, I think you said it all. There's not much I can add to that, except that I agree. I think Justin should change his name to Kevin McAllister. I think it would be very entertaining. All right, and as I just alluded to, we are going to be joined on the podcast. First interview of the year. I tried to schedule a couple. We tried to do one with Oaks. We basically were going to record a drunken podcast, but we ended up taking the bus home and not a taxi last week. So I forgot, and then I passed out on the couch on Montana. So we totally forgot to do that. So I thought it was about time we have a phone interview. So please join me in welcoming Lane Bryant Division leader Jason Plotzker.
Twinkle, Mr. Bauer.
Plotzker, welcome to the podcast.
Pleasure to be on. Long-time listener.
Yeah. We're glad to have you. It's always a treat when we can have a division rival on the show, especially someone who's seems destined to take first place in the league. So, just wanted to ask you a couple questions. Take me inside the mind of a Jason Plotzker. What do you feel about the state of your team? You're headed into week 13. It's crunch time. How do you feel?
State of my team. I would say it is strong to very strong. Obviously, I was a little shaken by losing 2 in a row last week, but nobody to blame but myself. I could have backed up Mario Manningham, who obviously was a late scratch, and, when that happens, it's a big problem, and I should have backed him up. But really the more important thing that I really followed up on was selecting Jocelyn James as my porn star of the week. She's got nice big tits, but, they're not big enough for Twinkle. And if you want to be on Twinkle Twinkle, you really have to have enormous tits. And, at this point of the season, it's getting tougher and tougher to find these big-titted women, but before they pay me the big bucks, I really got to deliver, and I couldn't. On that note, though, I think I did find and select a very nice young lady in Jenna Presley, who has some very nice, enormous breasts, and I really think those enormous breasts will buoy my team to winning 2 in a row and creating some good momentum for the playoffs.
I would think so. Yeah, I have faith in your ability to continue to choose salacious women down the stretch to represent your team. So well done. And as you did mention that you failed to back up Mario Manningham. Obviously, you went 0-2, but you're still in good shape. As I mentioned, you have the best record in the league right now, or you're tied for the best record in the league. But if you do end up claiming that top overall seed going into the playoffs, who do you think you'd select as your first round playoff opponent? Why?
Well, I guess I would probably have to reserve that judgment until that time happens, which, at that point, I would probably play it on matchups and projections, CBS's, and, of course, my own legendary algorithmic projections. But if I were to just say, I would guess Justin. It would be easy pickings, and I guess I'd feel bad because I haven't beaten the shit out of a 9-year-old since I was 12. But, you got to do what you got to do. It's the playoffs, and that's probably where I would go.
Interesting. Well, yeah, he's going to have to take down Denenberg first, but it sort of looks like that's the way things are trending. As far as things are going this year, give me your opinion on some of the new changes. I know it's our second year with CBS, but, do you like the multiple matchups, the additional flex, wide receiver, tight end flex? How do you feel about everything that's happened this year? And then also, is there anything you'd like to see changed as we go into next year?
Okay. The multi-week matchups I think are good. I have no real strong opinion on that. I will tell you, though, I was vehemently opposed to the wide receiver, tight end flex position when we had originally voted on the rules. But, kind of seeing how it's going this year, I really do support it now because it's really kind of how the NFL is going. The NFL runs an inside-out offense in that sense that you kind of look to your tight ends who are kind of streamlining, how the passing offense is going. So it just makes sense that these people should be counted as wide receivers because in actuality, that's really what they are.
Essentially.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, essentially, you're right. There's like the class of 2009 tight ends where it's, Dustin Keller and Gronkowski and Gresham. All these guys are just absolute ballers, and it's like the tight end position now in football is just like you said. It's essentially become just another wide receiver.
Sure. But as far as rules for next year, you did hear me very much really strongly support trading auction dollars last year. And again, I will bring that to the table because, when you have a snake draft in a keeper league, you get to trade your picks. And We don't have picks. What do we have? We have auction dollars.
It's true.
So why can't we trade them?
You know, I remember voting against that. I just feel like there are some people that might be a little bit too much power given their level of responsibility. I just feel like some people might screw themselves, and you know, that has an effect on everyone else, as evidenced by this year. Ariel's, you know, sort of white flag trade has really set up Oaks for a run at the wild card. I feel like if that were to affect next year's draft, it would, you know, have some serious, you know, long-reaching repercussions.
Yeah, it could be. But don't worry, I'll talk you into it next year.
All right, well, Plaster, one more thing before we let you go. Finally, I just mentioned his name. What do you think about our eventual clown, Ariel? Do you think he's going to live up to his expectations?
Live up to his expectations. Yeah, I think he'll live up to his expectations.
Or to our expectations, I should say.
Well, there's where you become, you know, creative problems. My expectation is that I expect him to be awful. And, you know, it's just, I really don't see him bringing anything to the table. He's got the personality to bet boss. I don't see him really being the jovial Ted Rifkin clown, if you will, that we kind of really set a standard for. And I don't see him passing that muster. I can definitely see him bitching out, you know, 12 o'clock at night, sending out a mass email, of course, and going to have fat sex with Jordan Schneider. I don't like it. I don't see it.
Hey, to me that sounds like quite the experience on Clown Night, but we'll have to see. We'll find out eventually. Plotzker, thanks for joining us. Good luck this weekend. You and I actually play each other, but you know the way my team has been trending lately, I don't think you're gonna need too much luck. But you know, have a good weekend.
All right, suck my dick.
All right, there you have it. The always charming, always enjoyable Jason Plotzker. Thanks for joining us on the podcast. Good luck to everyone. It's going to be a big week. We should have a couple of playoff spots clinched, and we should have some action this week. So good luck. Thanks for listening, and go Bears.